Are American high schools the way we see in the movies? Obviously, I don't think they're exactly like that, but still, some things seem possible. 1. Are the halls so crowded it looks like a subway during breaks? 2. Is the bullying as bad? 3. Are school dances and prom that huge of a deal? 4. Do all schools have some kind of queen bee that everyone knows and are obsessed with? Where I went to school, the proms and dances were not that nice. They were usually held in the school gym and it wasn't well decorated. I remember watching Stranger Things and they had that winter dance and I thought, what middle school has the budget for a balloon arch? 1. Yes. 2. This can be very subjective. Many people experience bullying to a far greater degree than others. I will say that bullying on TV shows and movies are exaggerated for the purpose of advancing the plot. A lot of real-life bullying isn't very cinematic. 3. Yes. 4. There certainly are popular people that most everyone knows or knows about. But again, this is very highly exaggerated in media for plot purposes. It depends on the school. At my smaller high school, none of those things were true. 1. Yes. 2. Depends. At my school it isn't. 3. Yeah, for the most part. Plenty of people don't end up going though. 4. Not really. 1. Yes. 2. Not really. More likely to happen before or after school. Or PE if the coach was a drunk. One could always just run away if they don't mind looking weak. 3. No. 4. Perhaps in a small school. I went to a large one and you would pretty much only know the popular people in your clique. Head cheerleader, I knew her because she was also in honor classes. Captain of the football team, I have no earthly idea. Yes, watch High School Musical and that is an exact replica for modern high schools, songs and all. No. Yes, not really, but it may depend on your friends group. No. My high school in the early '00s was exactly as OP described. Hell no. Mine was a factory of 5,000 students. And the captain of the chess team was also the captain of the football team. Everyone was studying and doing activities to get into college. Looking back, it's hard to remember anything except an occasional party and some dances. Mostly, it was stressful. Studying and sports practices. Honestly, I felt college was easier and more enjoyable. I went to a school of roughly 2,000 students, 500 per grade. While it was a very big school, the halls were always crowded during passing periods. There wasn't much time or room to do anything else but go from class to class. Most of the hanging out was done before first or after seventh period. Bullying existed but wasn't as bad. Prom was a big deal and so was homecoming. And no queen bee. Do some students really drive their own cars, fancy cars or trucks to school like in the movie? Yes, those are all fairly accurate. It's all exaggerated a bit for media. But most of that stuff is true. 4. I don't think my HS had a queen bee type person. There may have been a girl who thought she was a queen bee. But if so, she vastly overestimated how much people cared. I went to 2 high schools. One was exactly like a movie high school which I really enjoyed and the other was much more chill. Don't forget spring break at Stifler's cabin. It's exactly like that except that everyone is obese. 1. Yes, in many large schools. 2. Number. It's not like what you see in the movies. But does absolutely happen. 3. Yes, for many kids. But not for all. 4. No, they don't. For me, the bullying was worse. Unlike most high school movies, students do not attend school when they are almost 30. In my high school, The halls are extremely crowded between classes as people have 5 or 10 minutes to get to their locker, swap out their books, and head to their next class before the bell rings. The bullying wasn't so bad in my school. I never attended, so couldn't tell you. I'm a bit of a nerd. Not in my school. No, not at all in my experience. It has been a long time since I went to high school, but generally yes to all of your questions with clarification on question 4. The more appropriate trope wasn't queen bee mean girl, though they did exist. To answer your question 2, our experience was probably closer to the homecoming or prom queen trope, a pretty girl that everyone admires who dates the handsome jock and wins prom or homecoming queen competitions. I had a school friend that went to the US for a year. And one of the first things he told us is that the high schools in America were just like in the movies. So although purely anecdotal, there is probably some truth to it. Went to high school with a shitty sports teams over 25 years ago. 1. Yes. They actually brought in trailers for classrooms for the overcrowding back then. 2. Yes. But lots of kids actually fought back and only the bully would get suspended. No one ever thought of shooting up the school. 3. Not really. Having a big and famous sports teams would probably change that. 4. Not that I knew of. I did have a fuck buddy that later on became a pretty well-known model. Which I think to myself, I used to fuck her in the ass whenever I see her on some media. If anything in America was like television and movies, people wouldn't go to movies or watch TV. They would just look out the window. High school is only important for those who peaked there. You never went to school in your country? You can answer yourself, it's the same. Sometimes. The movies range from The Blackboard Jungle to Fast Times at Ridgemont High to Clueless. So take your pick. The things you brought up are exaggerated for TV. Empty or normal halls would be more boring than full, bustling hallways. Same goes for nearly everything else. It's far more normal, boring, and likely similar to other Western countries. Yes, to all of the above. Yes, no, yes, kinda. Do American teenagers think about sex 24/7? I mean, if I see a movie about high schoolers, there is always party, drugs, sex, talking about sex in every dialogue, making fun of virgins, etc. Especially in American horrors. Sometimes it's to the point I am confused if I watch soft porn or horror. My high school had 1,500 students. 25-30 to a classroom. So yes, the hallways were absolutely packed. Leaving school at the end of the day took forever. Yes, the halls are packed during passing period. 5 minutes to get from one class to the next. While trying to socializing as well. Bullies are worse than depicted. They are relentless. The school does nothing to stop it. School dances are sort of big deals. It just depends on the person. I went to homecoming during sophomore year. I went to prom my senior year. That was enough excitement for me. As for the queen bee, there is a group of popular kids, but overall most people form small but tight cliques. The first 3 are true, but the 4th one largely depends on the school. It's less common nowadays. Never been to USA, so never know what it is like to be at an American high school, so probably don't know. I think the one I was at in the mid-70s was much worse than they are now. There were 4 separate buildings, and once you waked out of one you lit up a cigarette or joint and made the walk outside to the next. Kids would pretty much come and go as they pleased. The principal just didn't give a shit. He was headed towards retirement anyway. It was like Fast Times at Ridgemont High for the most part. I feel like it's a lot better now. The high schools my kids went to were nothing like mine.